Okay, let's get to the mailbag. That's what we do every week. Ben, we do our mailbag. We get a lot of questions, and usually conversations arrives from there. I think you've done this before, so. So the first one is from Hank Beanie, and the subject is street cred. In the 90s, you had a lot of tough guys in the locker room. Back then, you had to be a real man or Rodman to make it in WCW. It's actually a pretty funny line. A lot of the guys had street pasts. Luger said in his book he used to be affiliated with the mob in Miami. He ran protection for their clubs after his college years.
Okay.
I drove a lot of miles with Lex Luger, and I'd never heard that before. Booker T did time for armed robbery. Buff Bagwell shot his father in the leg. You guys even admitted killers on the roster: Scott Hall and Marty Jannetty. Marty Jannetty's remember that Marty Jannetty story where he kind of admitted to killing somebody like 30 years after the crime or something like that?
Yeah, he eventually said he was exaggerating or whatever. I guess exaggerating a murder, but it was supposed to be a guy that made a pass at him when he was a young man. Yeah.
Right. So my question is, who had the most street cred in WCW? Who is a guy that you would not want to mess with or be around because you didn't know what their friends might do? Thank you, and that's from Handsome Hank. I never got the deal that like I would feel uncomfortable with anybody in WCW because they had friends that might do something to me. Like, and the Luger story, he said in his book, I got to read that.
That's actually one of the few I had. I'd never read Lex's book, so I don't know. I can't comment on that.
Do you know anybody who had shaky street pass, Ben?
Even on Dark Side of the Ring, they touch on Dino Bravo and the Montreal Mob, right? And then my good buddy, Big Sal Graziano from the FBI, being a giant that he was part-time bagman for the mob. And I know some other guys from OVW that were up Toronto way who did the same thing. And then isn't it lore that Scott Hall shot a guy in the head while he was a bouncer before?
Hang on a second. I got another one too. Tuggles kind of like makes it sound like he's a connected guy in Windsor. Scott D'Amore.
Yeah, I think so.
He's like
old school street guy too, bro. Right, like in Montreal and all that. Like those guys who run all that cigarette stuff up there, and like everything along those lines. That's been going on for decades and decades, and you don't think about French Canadian mob, but dude, if Dino Bravo showed up to strong arm you back in '86, you're probably going to make sure you got the money that you owe the mob. It's not him like pulling the strings, but if you got these guys who are gassed up in the '80s in your gym, you're not going to put them to work. These guys don't want a straight job where they're working 9 to 5s, and most guys were either some carny bouncer or you're like a coach, you know what I mean? Like a high school football coach or something along those lines. So definitely a lot of crossover, but now kids play video games. There is no mafia there. It's children. It's not real men anymore that were at the top of this business in their mid 30s to 50s, drawing. Now we have 20-year-olds who are right out of high school, right into the business. So there's no time to get carny or on the street or be an old school con man and bring that to the game. But I don't know if you heard me about the Scott Hall. Didn't he shoot somebody when he was
he was a bouncer at a strip club, and the guy pulled a gun on him. They wrestled over the gun, and it went off and killed the guy. So
I mean, you want to play guns, that happens, man. That's the fallout. So there's a lot more old school guys in the late 80s and early 90s that were involved in the rough stuff that were like, I'll do this phony for a paycheck instead of putting my life on the line,
Next one's from Wayne Grofine, and the subject is Falling Star. The Rock is without a doubt oh my God. The Rock is without a doubt the most famous person alive right now, but do you guys think that his star is falling? Before Disco cuts the email off, take this into consideration. His animated movie Super Pets didn't exactly break records despite him doing a massive multimedia campaign for it. His latest movie, Black Adam, has been a huge financial failure. It needed to generate $500 million to break even, yet it's capped around $350 million. Some of his movie deals are being canceled. No Journey 3 or Red Notice 2 anymore. And his sitcom Young Rock is, while a very funny show, struggling in the TV ratings. I'm not saying that The Rock versus Roman Reigns won't be a huge deal, but that brings a ton of lax fans back to that WWE product. But you think that The Rock's status as the number one celebrity is dropping. I mean, I actually no. He's just spread himself out too much. He's got his fingers in everything. He's got all these movies. He's got the XFL. He's got he's just too busy. So when you dilute his product, like everything's not going to hit. Like the way I look at it. But who would be the number one celebrity besides The Rock right now? That's my question.
Yeah, you could put his ride or die partner Kevin Hart right up there. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, Kevin Hart played the Resorts World a couple nights ago in Vegas, right across the street from our club. Packed. Yeah,
sold out. So I'd say him and Chappelle and maybe a few other musical acts. But I'm not here to be like, well, let me tell you about The Rock when this guy's this $68 billion man or whatever. But the Black Adam thing had me confused. He's been waiting for this role for a long time. And I get that the CGI cost hundreds of millions of dollars. But The Rock's charisma is undeniable in the selling point. And they wrote this character to be a straight man, straight-laced character. So he really doesn't even get to shine his brightest and connect with the audience through his charisma the way they would. And you got a heck of a point with being spread too thin. I mean, even being on creative teams or booking, Disco, that when you're focused on the rest of the show, your own performance can suffer, because you're not dialed in on you and you're worrying about everybody else's business. So that could definitely be a factor. And before this goes out of my conspiracy brain from the last question, was it Billy Jack Haynes that was involved with the Clintons on a murder on the train tracks?
Something like that.
Yeah, supposedly, yeah.
So I don't think you're going to find Johnny Gargano on the back train tracks anywhere gunning people down over CIA coke deals. That's probably the main difference, I'd say, between those.
It says here, just because, Disco, I know you like to hear numbers. So the Young Rock in the last year, the highest.
I don't care.
You don't want to hear about the Young Rock ratings?
No,
I don't. Why isn't the show?
I don't watch a lot of the Rock stuff.
Okay. And it says Black Adam has made on a budget of around 195 to 200 million. This is as of last month, made 159. So as of last month, it was losing.
I heard it
money.
made 300. Didn't this guy say made 350?
Yeah, but he also said it cost $500 million, which was not accurate.
All right, suspend that guy for misinformation in the email.
You're beat, right? Wayne.
Yeah.
Yo, what up? This is Conan, and I host Keeping It 100, my co-host, Disco Inferno, unfortunately.
Well, I'd say you're my co-host.
Listen, every Thursday here on Spreaker, we talk pro wrestling, sports, movies, music, TV, pop culture, and some politics. It's everything the rest of the pro wrestling podcasts are not.
Tune in to hear myself, the superior one, educate and inform.
Tune in to hear me bury Disco.
That's very disrespectful.
Join us every Thursday on Spreaker and keep it 100. Boom!